strategy in terms of using it in communications for your clients?
Shall I?
The other spot. I think, you can't fight it, so you may as well embrace it. I mean, the fact is that the internet, as we all know, if there's too much information, there's too much openness, and many of our clients, and Jason Wood is our attorney, keeps up at night how do you protect intellectual property. But the fact is, it's all out there. And so if you're not using it, you got to be absolutely crazy. And so our company is trying to figure it out. We're excited. We encourage our clients to put their assets out there and at least provide a framework so that the way they speak about their brands is the way that we want our brand to be portrayed to our customers. And our more conservative clients are very nervous because we all know what can happen when you put things out there and what the user can do with it. But for the most part, I think it's a really fantastic opportunity to engage with your customers.
One of the things that surprises me when agencies start to complain about user-generated content. I mean, let's face it, 99.9% of user-generated content is crap. Having said that, 99% of advertising is crap. So the agencies who are screaming that we can't let the amateurs in the room should start doing better work themselves and possibly they wouldn't be so threatened.
I think that the best way to look at it is the disruption that happened originally in advertising was television, and then the internet, mobile, and now social. I think the biggest thing that's happening now in the world right now is social media, which means user-generated content would be very much a part of that. And I think it's not going to go away. I think it's only going to grow. It feels to me like 1997 in relationship to the internet itself. And I think that there's all sorts of ways now to tie in with consumer in terms of community, and I think that's one of the most important ways to build brands.
From a brand perspective, I think what's fascinating for me right now is to kind of redefine what I call the path to purchase. If you think about it, in the past, you had a pretty linear approach where people were exposed to many brands and then they would go through the funnel and eventually lead to a choice, where traditional kind of push advertising was very effective. What I'm trying to understand right now is what that new path to purchase is, where you still have obviously the need for traditional put advertising and what I call that consider phase. So you have a L'Oréal Paris piece of advertising to drive the awareness, but what happens is that a ton of consumers, actually 1 out of 3, 1 out of 2 in some cases, are then going online and researching for information and going into that evaluate phase, which is that really critical phase where historically we didn't spend a lot of focus on. So developing, sorry. So what's very important is that this is something new for us, right? Because we're very good at the push advertising model, driving awareness. But the whole evaluation piece, the whole content generation is still very new for us. So critical, because if I'm very good at driving inspiration, driving awareness, then if consumers come online and search for information and content when it's there, it doesn't really matter what we did in the first step. So we actually have one example of a user-generated content with a star. She really became a star. She's a new celebrity that we created, which is just a next-door consumer. Her name is Michelle Freiman. I've heard of her. She's a 23-year-old Asian American blogger. If you look at YouTube, 5 of her videos, 5 out of the top 10 videos out there, Michelle Freiman videos, where she talks about how to videos and how to apply makeup. And she's the ambassador of Hong and she's one of our brands. And it's getting on average 2 million views on every video where she talks about some of our products. So again, it's very nice. We found her. And again, it doesn't mean we're not doing the traditional advertising anymore. She comes in at a different point and interacts with the consumer in a very kind of unique and personal way.
I mean, it's just sort of on the other side of that. So if there are 2 billion YouTube videos posted a year, you have 2 billion. just to your point, and 99% of them are crap. But one or two can actually destroy your brand. So one of the examples that we use with our clients in terms of being able to control what's out there, kryptonite lock. Have you ever seen that video? So someone put a user-generated content about a bicycle lock made by a company called Kryptonite. And he showed, and it's really expensive, very sturdy-looking lock. He picked it in 2 minutes with a big pen. Goodbye, lock gone, out of business, finished. Dominoes. Two people playing around in a kitchen. So again, it's not just about user-generated content that it's fantastic when it absolutely builds your brand, but can just as easily take your brand down. And so, just from, as you sit here and you think about what do I want to do in my profession, one of the, to me, a byproduct of this is just understanding the importance of public relations and managing the conversation, because if you don't manage it for the people, they will do it to you. And if they do it to you and it's not, it's not a positive story that they're telling, then you're in really big trouble.
I have a different, better story because it turned out well instead of Kryptonite. Real famous, one that really killed the brand because of user-generated content. With Nike, one of our clients, we had a competition for films that would be about Nike's brand, which is performance. And one of the people that entered was this company called Katie Lab. And the person that won the best film, one of the best films, they were about 5 minutes long, was a guy named Joe Krasinski. And he came out of nowhere with this great film, and then wound up doing some commercial work, and then wound up just directing Tron, the new version of the movie. So he's got actually quite a number of new movies that he's going to be doing in the near future. And it really came out of a user-generated content, which you sometimes see great talent emerge.
Shelley, you mentioned in terms of protecting your brand and managing it. What strategies have you found have been effective in doing that?
Well, I think to the degree that you can be on script. So it's very different in the consumer world than the B2B world. I work on both B2B and consumer brands. What we try to find are the influentials in the online space. So if you're dealing with a brand that's targeting moms, right? You want to find sort of what we call the tribal leaders. The mom bloggers, and you want to at least have a conversation with them. Because again, to your point, there's a lot out there, but there's not a lot of credible information. So there's a whole slew of influencers that you have to be talking to, so that when something like this happens, it can mitigate some of the damage. They need to know about your brand, they need to understand the story, you need to be listening, actively listening to the conversations that are happening in the online world. Because if you are, you're going to be able to stay a bit ahead of it.
For me, the key is that it all comes back to strategy. And that there's no way that you can control your brand online. And control is a really bad word. Manage, guide, finesse. There's no way that you can do it unless you really understand clearly, simply, what your brand is. Because that's the only way that you know what's on and what's off. And so to those influencers that Shelley was just talking about, you have to make sure that they understand and internalize the core of what your brand is, so that the things they can help you with are positive and not slightly off. Because as you know, if they go 1 or 2 degrees off, then all of a sudden, as it multiplies across the web, it can get 20, 50, or 70 degrees off, and then it's a big problem.
I think you've got to give up some control today if you're going to put things out there. We have Walmart as a client, and their most important shopper are moms. And we now have about 7 million Facebook fans, and They've learned how to change their whole model of how to talk to people in a bi-directional way, how to be more transparent, how to be open to criticism, which comes all the time. And I think they see the value in that bi-directional conversation with their very specific core audience. I think also when you start creating offers online in the social space, again, you're just opening yourself up to a very different way of merchandising, talking to your constituents. So it's fascinating to watch a brand like Walmart essentially give up a lot of control.
Maybe to add, what I would say is it's very important to listen to the consumer today. I think it's the days of push, 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 I think are over. It's much more of a pull strategy. From a beauty perspective, it's interesting if you look at what people are actually searching for in terms of beauty is getting more and more sophisticated. So, if the days of, how to get great makeup, for example, and so what people are searching are over. People are looking for very, very specific content, right? So the queries are getting longer and longer. So, a lot of our consumers are more educated than some of our beauty advisors in the store now because they're doing all this research, right? So developing content that matches up to your brand strategy and that's clearly defined and then that is in line with what the consumer is actually looking for from a content perspective is very important because the consumer doesn't care